So our modules, there's a few modules that we do. The main one is medicine, and then you have peds and obs and gynae is one module. They're your two big ones. Then you have forensics, which is a 5-credit module. Psychiatry is a 10-credit module. You have BH then, which is like a behavioural thing. You just have to do an essay. That's 5 credits as well. So fourth year is split into, well, it was for us, 7 4-week modules, 3 before Christmas and 4 after. I was group 3, so my modules I had obs and gynae for 4 weeks, then I had emergency med for 2 with research for 2, and after that was peds then for 4 weeks, and we had Christmas break, and then after that was psychiatry for 4 weeks. Then I had mixed surgery, which included anesthetics, ophthalmology, dermatology, and a surgery of your choice, which I chose neurosurge, but you could have chose breast or cardiothoracics or whatever. And then I had 4 weeks of medicine, which is just general medicine. They place you wherever. And then my last 4 weeks, 2 of which were spent in ENT, ear, nose, throat. One was vascular, and one was urology, which is urinary stuff. There's a lecture block to start in August. I think it's either 1 or 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's 1. And there's a lecture block after the second module, which would be kind of October, November time. And I think that's 2 weeks. In terms of exams are take place at the end of the year, bar your individual assessments per module. Medicine is broken into your 4 weeks of medicine placement, but you also have the surgery, mixed surgery and general surgery, which is your placement aspect of medicine. And then at the end of the year you have 3 papers, or 2 papers and an OSCE. One is data interpretation, which is a 90-minute, 10-question, difficult paper for timing. And then you have, we had a 110 question MCQ, which you get 3 hours for, but it was quite tricky as well. And then your OSCE, the OSCE for us was 5 stations of 9 minutes a station, and they were pretty unpredictable, but quite difficult as well. So medicine, you have 4 weeks, you can be put anywhere. You have 4 different weeks, and my weeks could differ from someone else's. So the important thing with medicine is that you just kind of take what you can from any tutorials and stuff that are on, in terms of, I think, Dr. Rizzo and Dr. Gallagher and a few others, Dr. Pat Barry as well. They do really good tutorials. I think they're on a Monday, and they're worth going to. I think they're mandatory anyway, but definitely they give you a heads up on what might come up on the data interpretation page or paper. And other than that, it's really important to just kind of, again, focus on getting confident with histories and examinations and presenting back. So there's 4 weeks of just surgery, 2 weeks are ENT, they're together, and you have a week of vascular surgery and a week of urology. The 2 weeks of ENT are very involved. You're in either the South Infirmary or at Waterford, and you're in at 7:30 every morning, and sometimes you can be kept till 4 or 5 in the evening. It really depends on who you're with, but it's worth, like, the mornings are spent doing tutorials, and you kind of have to be a little bit prepared for them, because the people doing the tutorials will ask a lot of questions, and if you don't know them, you just don't leave, essentially. So they just keep asking, and you keep answering until all the questions are done. So it's important to just prepare beforehand for them. You can see some really cool surgeries and stuff. In terms of the urology, it's 1 week. I was in CUH, and again, it's just about seeing patients. You can get into surgery as well, and you also have a tutorial towards the end of the week, given by a really great Reg, actually, if it's the same guy. And he tells you what you need to know, and you do a presentation of of whatever, and you present a history. And it's a nice one just to be able to take histories, get confident with them, and you learn quite a lot just from osmosis, just being around the people on clinics and stuff. And vascular is much the same. Again, you're going to be doing clinics, you're going to be in surgery, you're going to be taking histories and doing truncated examinations, but it's important to get good at those as well, because it's not like an OSCE in real life. You don't have 7 minutes to just burn through a full RESP exam or whatever. It's always going to be bits and pieces from different examinations.
Surgery is broken into 4 different components. It's broken into ophthalmology, dermatology, your surgical option component, and your anesthetics. So the ophthalmology will definitely be your most intense week of the whole year. The consultant who does it, or who did it with us, Dr. James, demands quite a high level of knowledge. Now he's a very fair examiner, but don't be thrown off by the complex questions that he'll ask you. You just need to put in a lot of work into this one, unfortunately. There is also an ophthalmology exam that you can do midway through the year called the Duke Elder exam. This can be quite useful if you want to own your ophthalmology skills, and there are prizes as well if you do quite well on the exam, so this might be something you might consider. To be honest, I think the best way to prepare for ophthalmology is just by doing as many questions as you can off PassMed and look at his lectures. He tends to have a specialized focus in diabetes, so that's one to also bear in mind. Then for dermatology, how you get good at dermatology is just by doing questions. Do as many questions, see as many skin problems as you can. The clinics are useful for seeing them at the start. I wouldn't get too bogged down in them, but I would definitely advise doing as many questions as you can instead, if you can. Definitely the dermatology questions that we got asked were not as straightforward as you might think. So definitely having some experience with just a broad range of questions is useful. So for anesthetics, it was quite useful actually. They gave us quite detailed learning outcomes. And I found that the best way to study this was to just go up to approach an anaesthetist and ask him to go through the learning outcomes with me. And once I was done this, I had all my anesthetic study done. I didn't have to look at any more books. He literally laid out everything. And if you really want to study more, you can look at the Oxford Clinical Handbook of Specialties. But I found actually that the learning outcomes covered everything in the book anyway. So I think just to take a look at the learning outcomes, and you can't go too far wrong then in the exams. So there are various surgical options. So neurosurgery, cardiothoracics, breast surgery, orthopedics would be the main ones. I did neurosurgery. I thought it was a great week. It's probably not as important for the exams as other things, but it's a good week just to get experience in a field that you might be interested in. However, I wouldn't neglect it either. I mean, each one has their kind of key topic that will be examinable. So for example, in neurosurgery, the subarachnoid hemorrhage is almost guaranteed to be on your paper. For breast, then it might require a bit more study because there is a lot more there, especially because for those people who didn't pick breast surgery. So that would be the one kind of topic that I would actually advise studying from that. And the way I would advise studying for that is just by doing past questions or past test questions, whatever.
Peds and obs and gynae are one module together. You have 4 weeks of obs and gynae and 4 weeks of pediatrics. And the assessment at the end is an MCQ paper.
The pediatrics rotation was kind of broken into 2 parts. It's broken into a community part and a hospital part. The community part was nice and much more hands-on. It had you were attached specifically to a consultant, and then you usually got to practice your skills on a lot of children, which will be your only pediatric experience of the year, which is really important for the OSCE, which was actually quite a difficult OSCE and quite a difficult paper. So I think that it's a good one to actually spend some time in. In comparison, then the hospital was much more lecture based, and you probably won't get that much experience. So you will have time to study whatever peds you want then. So I wouldn't underestimate peds. I think a lot of us did for the exam, and it kind of screwed a lot of people. So I think one of the most important things for us was the pediatrics lectures. So our exam was definitely very lecture focused. as opposed to the other exams, and this would be really important to bear in mind. So we got a lot of epidemiology-based questions, and if you want to do well, you'll also have to learn that, unfortunately.
Obs and gynae, you 4 weeks. It's really lecture and tutorial heavy, more tutorials than lectures. It's worth going to them because they're really informative and they're given by actual obstetricians and gynecologists. So they're seeing it day in, day out. It's all really guideline heavy as well, so it's the type of stuff you'd spend hours online looking up. So it's nice to get it all in a concise little bundle for you. Other than the lectures, you spend a lot of time on the wards in terms of your best value for time, I guess, wherever you can get as much exposure to the patients. They're happy to see medical students in the outpatients in terms of booking clinics and stuff like that for the obstetrics, and the gynecology as well. Outpatients is good, but you can also get in for surgery with gynecology. You can get in for C-sections and stuff in obstetrics, and if you want, you can also go in with the midwives while they do live births and see like stuff like what's called a cardiotopogram and stuff. It's the trace of the baby's heart. That's all really good to see firsthand. And if you are polite and enthusiastic, your buddy, like you're placed under a consultant or a registrar, your buddy would be happy to show you a lot of extra stuff and kind of give you a heads up on what might be more important than other things. It's important, there's a checklist to do for your 4 weeks. It's important to nail all those down as early as possible, just so they're not hanging over you, especially if your obs and gynae is after Christmas. I started on obs and gynae, so it was a nice one to actually get a bit of confidence around patients again after the summer, because we hadn't seen patients in, for me it was 5 or 6 months, and you kind of get out of the groove of taking histories and exams. I think when you're told to examine a pregnant woman's belly or whatever, it's kind of a baptism of fire to just get back into it. So I would recommend definitely grabbing the bull by the horns and really taking histories and exams early, just so you can get used to doing them. Forensics is actually a good one. It's done by Dr. Bolster, and she takes you for a day in one of your lecture blocks, and it's actually really worthwhile to study that stuff ahead of time for the final year exam, because it's a nice one to get marks on. And you can also pick up a book called Simpson, which will prepare you nicely, and there's a few MCQ questions floating around the place as well. So before Christmas, they spring this essay on you about 2 weeks before it's due, and it's a biopsychosocial model type essay, similar to every other BH essay you've done. And basically it's a 5 credit module, but it's worth putting a little bit of time into it, because it's a nice one to get marks on to make up for a difficult med paper or a difficult peds and obs and gynae paper. So I recommend spending time on your forensics and your BH for sure, because they're good marks to get.
Psychiatry is one, I suppose, not to ignore. A lot of people do, and they think, oh, it's just nice and it's all fluffy. Like, there's a lot of important stuff there. The exam isn't that straightforward. You have like essays to write, and you have MCQs to answer. There is quite a bit of learning there. There's the lectures given by Jared Clark are quite complex, but are worth putting some time into, because you will definitely get a lot of MCQs based on it, and you may get an essay question or two from it.
You have MCQ and essay paper at the end of the year, along with your 4 weeks of placement. Now your 4 weeks of placement are handy because they start with 1 week of lectures, and then you have 3 weeks of placement. The last week they usually let you write a 5,000 word essay, which sounds worse than it is, but you can tip away at it, and they have a nice little guideline in their kind of information at the start of the module. And then your essay and MCQ paper, you just have to find a book, Psychiatry at a Glance, or something along those lines helps. And prep the essays based on past papers. You can find them on the UCC library past papers. Just prep all them out. They repeat every year.
I wouldn't underestimate the pharmacology as well. That's in psychiatry. It's probably much more heavy than the other than the likes of medicine for any sort of pharmacological questions. I suppose psychiatry is one of those topics that you really just need to study when you're doing it. So plan out your essays then. Psychiatry at a Glance is a great book to use for basing your essays on. So just look through the past papers. Go onto Google Web, look through the past papers. You'll see a good few trends throughout, and just plan out the most common essays would be my advice. So I'll start off with the emergency medicine and research block, which was 4 weeks. So you had 2 weeks of emergency medicine and then another 2 weeks of research. The emergency medicine was really nice, it was really hands-on. It's a good block to get your kind of skills down for the OSCE. Well, one kind of word of warning is to get your stuff signed off very early, and I feel like this would be probably pretty useful for all of your modules or rotations. You'll get sign-off sheets for various activities or clinical skills, and just do them as quickly as you can, because if you leave them to the last week, they can be one of the more stressful parts of the year. Then for the research component, I suppose the most important, it really depends on where you have it in the year. If you have it at the start of the year, you can use it as the backbone to planning your research project. If you have it at the end, chances are you've already most of that work done anyway. But the most important part of those 2 weeks is the literature review, which can be, for me, it was probably the most stressful part of the year. The literature review is a massive essay that you have to do on an area of your choosing. Most likely it's going to be on your research project area. This is something that would best be done probably pretty early on, and most people will tell you in my year to do it as early as you can, and I know I never listened to anybody who said that to me and always left it to the last few weeks, but I really did regret it. It's worth almost a whole research module, so it's definitely worth spending a good bit of time on, just to write it out as many times as you need, keep rewriting it, because it can only get better. One of the most important things as well is to start using EndNote as early as possible for the literature review and for any essay that you do, because it makes your referencing automatic, and this is so key. It saves you so many hours in writing out references, and it can make a lot of your PowerPoints and essays just look a lot slicker. Because one of the more important things with the research is to just get it organized as early as possible. Find an area you're interested in and just email somebody off. For a lot of us did this before we even started back, so a lot of the people were already gone. For example, the obstetrics department was almost totally gone by the time we'd come back. So I think this is really important for people to think about, especially over the summer. What would you be interested in doing, and just email off the person. You don't even have to have an idea, just say that you'd like to do research with them. And the module isn't worth an awful lot, but it will take up a lot of time and planning, and make sure to get your ethical approval as early as you can. Over the summer you'll have a 4-week elective to do. Many of the GEMs will be kind of familiar with this already, but you'll have to approach a consultant and ask them if you can, I suppose, study under them or shadow them for 4 weeks. Many people will be going off to America if they've just done the USMLEs. You can use Surgeon Union as this, which is quite useful. Or a lot of people choose to stay in Cork or go to the UK. This is really just something that's kind of nice to sort out early on, especially if you plan to go to the US, because there's a lot of paperwork involved. So it's just best to kind of get on it. You don't want to be stressing out about this at the end of the year, when the exams come around. So definitely sort it out as early as possible.
After Christmas then, probably around Patrick's Day you want to start knuckling down a bit, getting a bit more serious with your study in that, and that will set you up nicely for the exams at the end of the year, because they are all at the end of the year. And once you kind of keep on top of your individual placements throughout the year, you should be in a good position then to get your final cram in for the last 4 weeks or whatever. In terms of how to study for the year, I'd recommend you do like an overview, like use a question bank or 2 question banks. I know a lot of the students will use UWorld Step 2. Some students will use PassMed. It's a UK one. That's great. It's like 4,000 questions. I did it myself. Pass Test is another. There's a load of them, but there's a few go-to, and they're kind of the 3 main. Once you're tipping away questions and you pick like 1 or 2 books, I mean, that's kind of all you really need to do. Is you can't spread yourself too thin in terms of your resources either, because like I guarantee you what you're learning in one book, someone else is learning something else in a different book, and you can't all be like headless chickens going around going, oh, I don't know this bit or I don't know that. Like, you need to take control of your own study and say, okay, what am I good at, what am I not good at, and kind of focus on those weaknesses.